Is the new McFarlane Toys Detective Batman an affordable substitute for the original superpowers? And is the new Tim Drake Robin even Tim Drake at all? Stick around and find out if these Cape Crusaders are worth the cost. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, poseability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting off with the packaging, and as usual, it's one of the best parts. McFarlane's done a great job of paying tribute to the original Superpowers collection, and this time they used the same artwork from the original Batman figure. This, of course, is the first time Tim Drake Robins appeared in the line. As for how Tim Drakey he actually is, we'll talk about that in the next category. Flipping around, we see just how much the new Superpowers collection has grown. If I had one minor critique, it's that I missed the bubble. Not only is it truer to the original, but it does break up that dead space. But again, it's a very minor nitpick on an otherwise sterling blister card. For packaging, I'm giving Batman and Robin 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, Batman stands at about 4 1/4 inches, whereas Robin stands at 4 1/2. Before I dig in, I want to comment on the purpose of doing action figure reviews. My first goal is to help collectors like you make informed purchasing decisions, but my secondary goal is to try to raise awareness to things that I think that the manufacturer can improve on. With that in mind, I'm a big believer in giving credit where it's due, and McFarlane does deserve some real credit for listening. With their early figures, I was very critical of this crinkly material that they used for the capes, and they fixed it. Now it's the same style of fabric as the original. I was also critical that the way they packed the figures put holes in the cape. Now they cradle the cape in a separate tray so that doesn't happen. I felt like the torsos were too broad and that the abs were too big, more like a Toy Biz figure, and they fixed it. I was frustrated by the lack of peg holes, and you guessed it, they fixed it. I'm not saying that McFarlane Toys is watching my videos and taking notes for me, but wherever they're taking their criticism from, they've been receptive to it and have adapted. As both a reviewer and a consumer, I really appreciate that. As such, this figure is just about everything I could possibly want in a Superpowers Batman. Putting it side by side with the original, and it's near identical. Like I said, I've always preferred my Batman without the black around the mask, but while the eyes are a bit smaller and the ears are a bit longer, just look how similar that jaw is. Moving down, here's the torso of the original, and here's the torso of the new one. It's not the exact same, but pretty darn close. Just look at a side by side of the arms. The biggest difference to the original is the belt. Aesthetically it's similar, but the original one was actually sculpted to the body, whereas this one is a separate piece. I suspect that's so they can swap different belts out and create different looks. That brings us to... hold on, let me check. Tim Drake Robin. Just as I believe in giving credit where credit's due, I also believe in giving criticism. Again, that's how we got from here to here. Let's start with the head. Between the face shape and the hair, it honestly looks more like Damian, but the easy smile is more like Dick Grayson. And when you look at the package, yeah, that's definitely Dick Grayson's hair. Dick Grayson's cape is famously all yellow. Not Tim's though. Tim's is only yellow on the inside, but black on the outside. This figure, by the way, was made in 1992 by Kenner and is the perfect Tim Drake for this scale. Again, notice the longer face. Just putting that cape on this figure is already a big improvement, but then we get to the torso. Notice the zipper and the fasteners. Now compare it to the Superpowers Dick Grayson. Now look at any classic Tim Drake figure and what do you notice? A few fasteners at the top and that's it. Even the belt's kinda weird. Normally the belt comes down at an angle. This one's been cut straight across and I think I know why. Remember I said the Batman belt was a separate piece so they could swap them out and make other Batman figures? My prediction is that they're going to be swapping this belt along with a couple of other parts to turn this into this. Again though, credit where it's due, the logo is right, the padding on the sleeves is right, and also the gloves. The boot should be a bit more swoopy on the sides, but that's not the end of the world. But I do wish that they had used a darker green. And while I was editing, this photo came out from San Diego Comic-Con showing exactly that. Pretty sure this was scooped by Toy Shiz. I also felt like maybe there's a bit too much fabric around the collar, but if you pull back the excess on the C-clip and tuck underneath, it is fine. Again, very similar to the original. These Cape Crusaders might be partners in crime fighting, but that does not make them equal. For presentation, I'm giving Batman 1 whole point, but given just how little he resembles Tim Drake, I'm giving Robin 0 points. Moving on to poseability, and it's about this time I've got to remind you that the limited articulation is on purpose. points. The original Superpower series only had 7 points of articulation, so as an extension of that original line, so do these. From the top, and the heads can swivel side to side, the arms can spin around, nothing in the waist, but the legs can kick out and back, and the knees can bend. In fact, the only articulation difference is that the new figures have pins, whereas the originals didn't. That's because the original legs were actually hollow to accommodate the gears for the action features. The articulation might not be much, but if you use some figure stands, you can get this dynamic duo into somewhat dynamic poses. Between that and the fact that it is the articulation scheme of the original, and for poseability, I'm giving Batman and Robin 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and the figures don't come with any accessories, but then again, neither did the originals, unless you count the comic book. The originals did, however, have action features. True, the new Robin can't do a karate chop, but he can look okay on my shelf, which at this stage of my life is all I really need him to do. Luckily, playability is more than just accessories or action features, but also about how well your figure plays with others. First things first, whenever I talk about these small-scale heroes, I love to bring out my Mego Pocket Heroes Batman. Not only is it the oldest action figure in my collection, but this was the progenitor to the Superpower series. That said, and here we have the Superpowers Batman, which I won't linger on because we've already looked at it. Here is the slight retooling Kenner did for the Dark Knight collection. Notice in the Comic-Con video that McFarlane's also reissuing this new Batman in black. And then here we have McFarlane's first pass at a Superpowers Batman. As for Robin, here's the original Dick Grayson version, which we've already looked at, as well as the Kenner Tim Drake, which again we've already looked at. That body was reused for Batman the Animated Series. Oddly enough, despite being the Tim Drake costume, it was Dick Grayson on the show. This trend was continued by the makers of Batman Forever. Although the character Chris O'Donnell played was definitely Dick Grayson, the costume is undoubtedly Tim Drake. And for one last Tim Drake, and here's the one from the new Batman Adventures. For another member of the Bat family though, and here's Dick Grayson all grown up in his Nightwing persona, the blue between him and Batman actually match. As for some Batman villains, and here we have the original Superpowers Joker, here's the Toy Biz Joker, and the movie Joker. Combining Batman and the Joker together, and here we have the Batman Who Laughs by McFarlane Toys, and then here we have the movie version of Catwoman, and for your consideration as we await a McFarlane one, the animated series. Here's the Superpowers Penguin, the Toy Biz Mr. Freeze, and the Toy Biz Two-Face. For the rest of the Justice League though, and here's the Kenner Superman, the Toy Biz Superman, and the McFarlane Superman. And then for Wonder Woman, here's Kenner, Toy Biz, and McFarlane. Here's the Kenner Flash, one of a couple of different Toy Biz Flashes, and McFarlane. As for Green Lantern, and here we have Hal Jordan as made by Kenner, and John Stewart by McFarlane. And then rounding out my collection, and here we have the original Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, and then from McFarlane we have Deathstroke and Darkseid. For a relative scale comparison, here they are with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. I've got to admit that our McFarlane Justice League is coming together very nicely, but these new figures can also stand shoulder to shoulder with the originals. For playability, I'm giving Batman and Robin 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Unlike previous waves, Batman and Robin are not Walmart exclusives and retail for $9.99. Considering how much the original Superpowers Batman goes for, $10 is a bargain, but knowing that an even better Tim is coming, I'd recommend just holding out for that. For price, I'm giving Batman 1 whole point for a grand total of 5 out of 5. As for Robin, I'm giving him half a point for a not so grand total of 3.5 out of 5. There is one additional reason why McFarlane released this Batman and Robin, to go with their all-new Superpowers Batmobile. I'll be taking a look at that, comparing it to the original, and pitting it against a Spin Master in a vehicular versus coming very, very soon. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.